Tell me about some of the different reactions you've had when you shared that you're doing virtual sales in your painting company, when you shared that with the painting community. Like, what have been some of the reactions?
Dude, it's been fascinating. And I'll be quite frank, it's been more negative than I expected. I've had a lot more people against me and wanting it to fail than I expected. This is the unfiltered version of the podcast, man.
Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe.
What's up, everybody? Mike Hickman here, founder of paintergrowth.com, and I have a very interesting and special guest. We're going to have a lot of fun today. We have Eric Fozz, also known as Eric Fozz, founder and owner of Pathfinder Marketing, also has his own painting company. Now, Painter Growth Podcast here, we're all about the business of painting. So we're going to be focusing on his painting company and how he's been able to start up and grow a painting virtually remotely. So what's up, Eric, man? I'm stoked to have you.
What's up, dude? I'm stoked to be here, man. It should be a lot of fun.
So I got to start it out. Why did you decide you have this successful marketing business where you're working with painting contractors every day? Why start a painting company? I mean, that's a huge headache.
Yeah. No, great question. Cause it's not the super sexy business, right? The sexier business marketing one, you get to travel all around the world. You're remote, right? It really stemmed from this. I mean, years ago. Okay. I've, like many marketers, studied Alex Hormozi like it's nobody's business. And
that changed my life. Big shout out. He's a big man.
Mine too. And he shares this story of how he was talking to a guy who ran a real estate marketing agency. He worked with real estate agents. And the guy was frustrated because he couldn't get his clients good results and this and that. And Alex was like, well, have you ever sold a house before? And he's like, no. He's like, dude, go be a real estate agent for a couple years and go do the dang thing yourself. And I promise you it'll be better. Well, it's funny because then fast forward so much further, when I was actually looking for an apartment in Miami, because I thought I was going to move there for a little while, the agent I was working with was that same agent. So shout out to Peter if he's for some reason listening to this. But I actually got to meet with him and it was really cool. But I heard that story and I was like, dude, that's so right. Like, I'm great at the marketing and the lead side of it. But if I could, and I did a little bit of sales coaching and stuff because I used to work for a big remodeling company on more of the lead conversion sales side of it. But that's when I was like, dude, let me just learn everything I possibly can learn. So I flew out and did estimates with Tanner and did some sales stuff. I flew out to Jason Phillips and saw how he ran his company and how he trained his people. And like, I went to Corey Leister's cabinet painting event just to see how she leads her people. And I just immersed myself into it so far. And through that rabbit hole of doing that for a year and a half, 2 years, then I started having all these different ideas of like how you could really innovate on this industry. I had this idea for a virtual sales process. I had this idea of doing certain things differently. And I went to a couple of clients we had on the marketing side that, we were close with, we had worked with for a long time, and proposed some of these ideas to them to let me test through their business. And naturally they were a little skeptical. But it just became this idea that I just continued to have. It just continued to make so much sense. A painting business is a very simple, very good business. So at that point, then when I couldn't test some of these other ideas and other verticals, I was like, let me go do this. Let me test it. It's only going to make the marketing side better. Even if it's just one giant experiment that fails, it will only make the marketing side better and me a better entrepreneur. And now we're about 3.5 months into it. So
that's amazing. I want to dig into that a lot more, obviously. But there was part of, I think, that Hormozi story, if I'm thinking about the same one, when he's talking to the real estate group and he's like, he asked the guy, he's like, okay, why aren't you guys closing more deals? First guy, leads suck. Okay, there's your problem. If the leads suck, then you can't really scale a business. And I'm sure there's some parallels to your business too. If you have clients complaining that the leads suck, then there's nothing that you can really say on your end. You're like, oh, I'm sorry that the leads suck. But if you're like, well, I have my own painting company and I'm running ads for my business and we're booking $80,000 a month off these leads. So where's the suck again?
Right. So that has happened as a byproduct of it. But interestingly enough, that wasn't, and I think a lot of people think I started the painting company to do that, to prove it. Right. And it's really not, because the interesting part is before I started the marketing company, I was working for a big remodeling company, and I had previous experience with Facebook marketing and all this marketing stuff. So I was running the ads to get the leads. And then I was in the remodeling company calling the leads and then talking to the sales reps after, right? So like, I know the leads are good. And now we've worked with so many people that like I'd seen all that stuff to know that that wasn't the case and be able to give them some feedback in terms of the sales process. But what has ironically then happened as a byproduct, the reason we started the painting company was to have that big experiment, to test all sorts of wacky, crazy ads that clients wouldn't let us test, to test a virtual sales process, to go hire an admin in Mexico and show like, you can do that. And like, look, like, or maybe it fails and I'm wrong. You got to hire stateside, and like to have this big experiment. But what has happened as a byproduct then is exactly that, where it's like, these leads suck, where it's like, really? Because I taught a guy that's never been in painting and is an average salesperson based on his KPIs and his numbers, and he's doing great.
Yeah.
So I don't know what
part credibility, but larger part sandbox and testing area.
The biggest part was exactly that. Have a giant sandbox to like, I have a new idea for an ad. I can launch it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't need to go wait and get it approved from a client, pitch them on this idea and overcome their limiting beliefs on it. And then that's a 2-week process. Like I can have an idea, I can work on it at 10 p.m. and it's launched at midnight.
So we've spoken before, and there's a few things that I want to hear about. And I'm sure the audience is going to be stoked to hear about it too. And one of them is virtual sales. Yes. So selling a $13,000 or more paint job with never stepping foot at the home.
The $26,000 one the other day. It was 2 parts, interior and exterior. But yeah, like it's insane.
Never meeting the homeowner. I also want to hear about your use of overseas employees to help you on the production side, which most painters are like, how can you do that? So like, we'll absolutely dig into that. And just also the whole concept of running a painting business as a part-time job, when most painting contractors feel like they're working 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of great stuff to dive into. So why don't we start on the sales side? Since that's the start of the whole journey, you have decided to try out virtual sales for painting contractors without ever knowing that it would work. How did that come up?
It was really just an idea, right? So again, when you just think through all these things, like from the marketing side, because what a lot of marketing agencies will do, and a lot of the circles I've run in, is they provide leads, and then their clients tell them, oh, leads suck or whatever. So they go, what else can I do for them to basically guarantee their success? So now they don't sell you leads, they sell booked appointments, and they hire a call center. And then it's like, okay, but then they're still like, these appointments suck because they can't sell them. And it's like, well, I was like, what if I could just sell it too? But then at that point, then I'm looking at it, and as I learn more about the business and stuff too, then I was like, dude, if I'm going to do that, just subcontract out the work, just run the whole business, then I can show them how to do that. And it's just evolved. But that's how the original idea got there. And then it was probably 100 different notes in my phone on different flights and stuff for a year and a half before it actually came to fruition. The exterior part was simpler, right? Because it's like, okay, like that can be a little easier. You can break that into sections.
Google Map it.
Online measuring tools. Yeah, roofers do it. Like it's possible, right? The interior side, it's like, how do you actually go about that? Like there's the tactical side of like actually building the estimate, and then also the like conversation and sales and connection point of view, which I was less worried about because my whole sales experience inside the marketing company and everything has been all virtual. So I was more confident in that. The bigger part was like actually getting an accurate estimate and bid for people without being there in person.
Okay. So before we jump too much into that, tell me about some of the different reactions you've had when you shared that you're doing virtual sales in your painting company, when you shared that with the painting community. Like, what have been some of the reactions?
Dude, it's been fascinating. And I'll be quite frank, it's been more negative than I expected. I've had a lot more people against me and wanting it to fail than I expected. Just this is the unfiltered version of the podcast, man. But I've had some people that have been supporters. I've had some people that have been supporters in the dark. texting me separately and privately, like, yo, this is so cool. Like, keep going, keep pioneering.
You know what? If you don't have haters, you're not doing it big enough.
I guess so. So yeah, it's been really funny. Every post I make about it, there's a slew of people that are super big supporters and a slew of people that just want to see it fail. And look, I know it all comes from some form of jealousy or insecurity or limiting belief or whatever, and that's fine. It is what it is. I'm not gonna lose sleep over it.
Okay, wicked. So tell me about your first estimate virtually. How did it go?
Actually, the very first estimate I ever did virtually, I didn't close on the spot, but I did close in follow-up. It was like $765 for one room and I think a hallway wall. And it was definitely, for what it was underbid for sure. But it was shaky, right? I mean, the process has gotten reiterated a ton of times, right? It started out as just a phone call. And now it's evolved to, we prefer to do it over Zoom rather than over the phone, so we can get that connection, see that body language and all that stuff as well. So it's evolved, but we didn't go into this blind. Like, that's, I think, one of the things people forget when they're looking at this. And I'm sharing some of these numbers. And I think sometimes what a lot of people miss, people come in and they start marketing and it's like, what's your sales process? Like, I don't know. I say this, we came in with a theorized sales framework of like, this is how this will go based on our frameworks that have been proven in other industries and other things. And now that framework got tweaked and adjusted, and we removed certain parts and added in certain questions. But like, we didn't come in blind to this. We came in with a strategy that had been built for a couple of months before launch.
And that's so important. There's so many not even just contractors, but business owners, salespeople everywhere who just think that they can wing it, right? Like, imagine if you did your process and just emailed the client a quote after, right? You would book exactly 0 jobs.
Literally.
What parts of the discovery and the pitch and the close and the presentation do you find are more important now that you're just doing virtual estimates?
Well, I never did a lot of in-person estimates. I only did maybe 5 between. Sure. I did 1 for our paint company, which closed, and ironically was a pretty pain in the ass customer. And I did a few with Tanner, and that's really it. But I think that I'd say the discovery process is one of the most important parts of it. Like, that's where we spend the majority of our time, is learning about what are their pains, their desires, what do they actually want out of this project. And then a very small portion of that, of the sales process, is actually lining up our service with all the stuff they told us they wanted and all the stuff they said they didn't want.
Okay. So because you don't have the in-person communication where you can literally, get the subtleties of conversation and see what they want and they don't want, you found that like the discovery aspect of it is more important to really learn about what the customer is looking for. Yeah.
And I'd say those same questions apply in person. Like, when I did the 1 in-person estimate, I used the same exact sales framework. Like, it didn't really change. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's figuring out all that stuff. Like, why do they actually want to get this done? What is most important to them? Is budget most important, or is it having it done perfect or in a certain time frame? Like, once I know what's important to them, I can tailor our solution to that. Otherwise, I'm just guessing and flying blind.
Okay. So you asked those questions. Those are all great questions. Absolutely need to know timeline, budget, what is important to them. One of the most important things in sales. And what's your workflow then on getting, if you're open to sharing this, getting the numbers from the client and then translating the numbers in the job scope to a quote?
Like, in terms of us building the actual price for them?
Number 1, understanding the scope of the job and surveying the job with the customer. And then number 2, getting the price.
Gotcha. So this is going to sound way too simple to people. But like, literally before the estimate, when the handoff from our appointment setter to our sales guy, when our sales guy does that text and that phone call, he asks them, by the way, can you text over a couple photos of what you want painted? And they send over some photos. It's literally that simple. Sometimes over Zoom, because we'll do some over Zoom and some over the phone. Just depends how comfortable they are with it. But if they're over Zoom and there's like a photo they missed, they just go like this and show us. Like, it's really that simple. And I'll show you how it's that simple in terms of how we price for interiors and how we do that, how we actually build it. But we get the scope of work and stuff from those photos. With exteriors, we still get a couple photos so we can see the condition of everything. But with Google Earth and a couple other tools that they've used in the pressure washing and roofing industry, the name of the one we use, I forget. Oh, I thought I had it handy here. There's one they use in the pressure washing industry. That's what we use, or just Google Earth. And on Google Earth and Google Maps is free. You can literally do the measurements around it, right? So we get the measurements of the length and then estimate the height based on the stories. You know, if it's one story, it's about 10 feet, and that's close enough. Count the windows, right? Judge the siding based on judge the condition based on the photos, and plug that in, and we actually get things based on surface area for exteriors. For interiors, what we do then based on those photos is essentially, it's basically like piece pricing for interiors, right? So is it a small room, medium room, large room, extra large room, 2XL room? And then we have definers for that. Medium room is a standard 12 by 12 bedroom ish, right? It might be 13 by 11. That's fine. It might be 14 by 12 and a half. That's fine.
Yeah.
Ish. It's going to take the painter about the same amount of time, right?
Yeah.
And then
that 1 or 2 feet on either corner isn't going to change the amount of hours it takes.
Exactly. And then like same thing. So we have definers for that. A large room is going to be like about the size of a garage. Okay. Every sales guy knows about the size of a garage, and we can go through that then. And then same thing, we have different variables based on the level of prep needed, and that changes our pricing formula. And it's just a big Excel sheet my tech guy built out. But basically, in short, it's piece pricing for interiors.
One thing that I have realized now, talking to you about this process, and I mean, it makes a lot of sense that it's important, is how systems oriented you are about this painting business. Like if you went to try to start this virtual painting business, which sounds so ridiculous to say, the way that the average contractor runs their business, I mean, it would be an absolute disaster.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think that's an area I struggle in on the marketing side, is being very system. I've struggled with the marketing company in certain regards. But it's been very interesting because starting this paint company, like I had to very much learn different skill sets as an entrepreneur. I had to learn to play the game differently. When I started the marketing company, I was a broke college kid leaving. I was living with my brother. I didn't have money. I had a skill set. I had no money, and I had all the time in the world. Now the paint side, it's quite literally flipped, where like, I don't necessarily have the skill set of actually being a painter. I have capital and I don't have time because I'm busy running a marketing company. So I have to utilize my other resources. And it's very much like I'm more almost like an investor and consultant in the company. Like a company of our size would not have a sales rep and a project manager, but we do, because the company can also just break even right now, and that's fine. Like it doesn't pay my salary. The marketing company does. And cool, I'll meet with the sales rep and I'll meet with them once a week and revise the script and the process and everything. And it's been a much different way to play the game of business for sure.
Yeah. You're the CEO of a painting startup rather than the owner operator of a painting startup.
Very much so. Yeah.
Which is pretty wild. So I was talking to my wife yesterday or this morning or something, and we talk every now and then. And I was telling her about your virtual sales process, and her first gut reaction was like, that's ridiculous. Nobody wants to buy a paint job virtually without actually meeting the person who's running the company. And then she thought about it a little bit more, and she's like, well, maybe you don't need to meet the person. Like, as long as the painters are, legit and they're vouch and there's the trust. Have you had any negative reactions from homeowners?
Oh yeah.
How did you deal with that?
Yeah. It's not many, a very small portion of leads we call and stuff are like, nah, I really want somebody else to come out to the house. And cool, we figured out a way to handle that objection, and we'll still get a lot of those people onto a virtual estimate. And it's funny because those people we find actually really enjoy the virtual estimate more. Some of the biggest compliments we've gotten on our virtual estimate has been people that at the beginning of the estimate straight up told me or the sales guy, I'm kind of nervous about this whole virtual thing. And then at the end, they're like, dude, this was awesome. So we've had a little bit of pushback there, and some of those don't book appointments, and that's okay. I mean, it's the numbers still work. Like we're still at a 10% cost of marketing.
It's a new model, so there's going to be some pushback, of course. But it's
here's actually some really good numbers for you. As it's gotten more in place, right? We're about 3.5 months in. This month, we got really, really serious about our tracking on the sales side. Our appointment setter, who is in Mexico, okay, just recently graduated college. She lives in Mexico. She makes a very good wage there, but much less than a U.S. wage. English is her second language. On new leads coming in, all leads from Facebook ads, we had like 2 referrals to date. So far in the month of July, she had an 82% appointment set rate on cold leads, cold traffic. Meaning if we get 10 leads, she books 8.2 appointments.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 8.2 out of 10 people are comfortable with a virtual estimate and are picking up the phone and scheduling.
I think an interesting lesson there that anyone can take who's still doing in-home estimates is that the reason why your homeowners are having a good experience as a result of your estimate isn't because it's virtual. It's because you care and you're curious and you ask questions and you ask what matters to them. And most contractors don't do that at all. They go in, they say, hey, can you show me what we're painting? All right, I'll send you a quote. Or all right, here's the price. You ready to go? Or they don't even ask for the job.
You're 100% right. And that's the compliments we get, is that our communication's so on point, that we ask great questions, that we really, threw our arm over their shoulder and we were a guide and we really helped them through the process rather than just like presenting them a price. I fully believe if anybody took the exact sales process I've built and duplicated it, but in home, and we competed next to each other, they would crush us for sure. Because they get that in-home personal connection. They pick up on those couple, like it would definitely do better. But the reality is I can outperform the majority of the industry with a great sales process being at a slight disadvantage because the majority of the industry doesn't have a great sales process.
Yeah. And even on top of that, when it comes to people copying you, or for anyone for that matter, like they might be able to copy one thing that you do, but they can't copy everything, right? They, maybe they can copy the words that you say, but they can't copy, that and like how you make the customer feel and the before and after text sequences and the way that your setter helps them out and the way that your project manager comes and picks it up from there and your communication processes. Like there's so much more to it that a lot of the times people think that, if I give away this one secret, I'm going to be out of business.
Yeah. No, it's 100%. It's all of it. It's all of it after that too. Communicating with our project coordinator and our project manager. Dude, we just finished a job from hell. Am I allowed to curse on this thing?
Sure.
So. All right. We just finished the job from hell. It was a 2 to 3 day exterior, super simple. It started literally, it took almost a full month between rain delays, a bad subcontractor, a different bad subcontractor walking off the job. Like everything that could go wrong went wrong. It was never a problem. This lady actually finished. We just finished it yesterday. She was as happy as a clam. We've gotten 2 referrals since being on that job site. She told me she's going to refer us to all of her friends. And granted, I think it was partially that being a great customer too. Like we got lucky with the person too. But the thing she kept saying, she's like, I know the service industry is tough. Your communication has been so on point. It's okay. I understand. It was always your communication. Yeah. And that's after the job, right? So it's every single piece of it.
Yeah. So we talked about sales. The sales process is, I think has the potential to flip the industry upside down. Like all of a sudden, if you can hire a sales rep, or maybe someone can start up a business where they do fractional sales for painting companies across the country, and it's all virtual, and you plug and play that system into other businesses.
If anybody can figure out the finances of that, let me know and I will partner with you and start it. Because I've run the numbers and it's like, that would be great. Yeah, I'll do all the marketing, all the sales, and just come in as a fractional CMO and just do the whole thing. There's just not enough margin in a fully scaled out. Like if your net profit's going to be 15-20%, now we are going to take a portion of that, and it gets tough. But
I was talking to Daniel at Bookkeeping for Painters, and the way that he looks at it is that marketing should be 7.5 to 10%, and then sales should be about 10%. So if you look at that 17.5 to 20%, just off the top goes to the organization doing that, who's finding the leads and booking the job for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
right.
pretty
So,
good.
but that means if anybody was to do that, you probably need to be at 30%, because you're going to have to pay your internal recruiter, your internal sales trainer.
But I think the people that who would sign up for something like that might be like a sub crew where it's just like 3 guys, they're working, they just want consistent jobs.
But at that point, again, just own the whole thing then. If it's just going to be sub crews, just own the whole thing and sub it to them.
Yeah, I mean, the headaches that come from owning the relationship. Some people just don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
So let's move on from sales here. Let's talk production, because obviously, I mean, your hands look pretty clean. I don't think you picked up a brush today. How do you paint a house when you're not even in potentially the county that you're selling the paint job?
It's the AI robots. No, just kidding.
You got some Tesla bots.
So I am, just for disclaimer, like I am in Cleveland currently. I have been since like a few days after we started. I flew back just a couple days after we had booked the first couple.
From Colombia, you were living in?
I was in Mexico at the time.
Okay.
In Playa del Carmen. But yes, so I've been here just to, be that person, boots on the ground, get some of the foundation in place.
Yeah.
But I have not done much painting, very, very little. I've done some touch-ups.
So that coincides with the start of summer in Cleveland.
About 25th was the day I flew back.
So now you're looking to get your business up and running by end of September so you can go back to Mexico?
Dude, I would love to. That is kind of the plan, actually. I'm going to try actually here at the end of this month or early next month, taking a short, like extended weekend trip to see how like our project manager and some of those pieces go. So
love it.
Yeah,
love it.
We're getting there. What was the original question?
Production.
So it's interesting. This has naturally been the biggest, the hardest part of this, right? Naturally, the sales and marketing stuff got figured out pretty quick. The hardest part has been the production. We've gone through a lot of sub crews. Haven't had luck with many of them. It's pretty bad actually. If you look at our numbers, we're like 1 for 6 on like sub crews, and one of them being like decent. So that's the biggest spot we're focused on right now. Like we're just recruiting extremely, extremely hard sub crews, and we're actually now recruiting W2 in-house as well. With the focus of that being mostly an interior crew. So I think literally tomorrow I have like 9 interviews or something. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, I think a lot of old school or painters listening to this, they hear that you're having trouble with production, not being boots on the ground yourself, and they're
they're ready to jump in and
of course you're having trouble. Painting's not that easy, right?
You're not a painter. Yeah.
No, I don't even think it's not that you're not a painter, because like I'm not a painter either. I ran a painting company, but like I can't cut a straight line to save my life. But I can train people how to do that, and that's the only thing that matters. So I don't think you have to be a painter, but just not being present is. So
I am present now, getting it off the ground. And the idea that as this company scales is there will be present people here. Like we will have our project managers that are here in person. Obviously, all of our painters will be here in person. And our GM will at least need to be semi-present, right? They may not need to live there, but they need to be in frequently. But our sales and our admin and our project coordination can all be remote at that point. So there will be people in person.
Okay. So how does the workflow go? So you talk to the homeowner, you give them a quote. They say, okay, I want to go with your second option, whatever that is, $26,000. You're going to paint my whole house. You take a deposit using drip jobs. Shout out to Tanner.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
Then we let them know our project coordinator will be reaching out, depending on the time of day, either later the day or tomorrow morning. Our project coordinator will be reaching out just to go over a few little housekeeping things with them, schedule the color consultation if that's something they want, and that they will be their point of contact from here moving forward until the job starts. And then that time comes around, our project coordinator calls, and we've got just a simple checklist they go through of, do we need to schedule a color consult? We're currently booking out to X date. Are there any days we need to be aware of to move around? Like, are you going to be on vacation these couple days and I can't schedule you those? Couple things that we just go through. And then that person, our project coordinator, just continues to keep up to date with the customers once a week, once every other week, send them a text. Hey, haven't forgotten about you. We got some rain delays on our exteriors. It may be a little bit further, just keeps them up to date on where we're at.
Just like maximal communication.
Yeah, I completely stole Jason Phillips's 7-day hug thing. So we try to have a touch point with them every 7 days, unless like it's far out and they've expressed like, hey, like not always, but for the most part, every 7 days, either a phone call or a text of just like, hey, haven't forgotten about you. We're progressing the schedule nicely. Let us know if you got any questions. Just that way we're still top of mind and all that. So
very cool. How do you take down the important notes that the customer tells you and transfer that knowledge to your project manager?
Dude, that's been a tough part. We we had a lot of that happen, less from our project coordinator to project manager, but more so from our sales to project manager. Sales guys don't like doing the admin work. They struggle with that, right? Naturally.
Yeah.
So we created a pretty intricate handoff form. Again, just like an SOP where it's like, what is everything we are going to need to know? What's the client's demeanor? What exactly did they want painted? Like, please define the exact scope of work, everything, all the way down to like, what would wow the customer and have them leave us a 5-star review? And like all those questions are there. We have a form that the sales rep fills out after, and then that form pulls all that information into a whole data set table that our project coordinator works from every day. So they have it. And that helps a lot, because otherwise our coordinator was just going to our sales guy, asking him questions all the time. What was this? How did this go? Is she going to be upset about this? It's just,
So then it comes to finding subs, and you struggled with subs. And I mean, we've all struggled with subs before. Everyone who's ran a painting company. So that's not anything new or unique to a virtual business. What are some things that you wish you would have known before hiring your first sub?
Ooh, that's a great question. Call their references. That was actually a tip I got from you. Call their references. If possible, do a test job. And the problem is there's been some situations where I've been my back against the wall and I haven't really been able to do a test job. The test job had to be a customer's job. But a lot of our subs, most of our subs that didn't work out, I knew right away in the first job, right away, right? Poor communication, not showing up on time, or they're just an awful painter and they just talked a great game and sounded like they walked through their process of painting and it sounded perfect. And maybe that's partially me not knowing a lot of it, but I knew enough to be like, this guy sounds legit. But if I could have a simple test project of wall, ceilings, trim, 2 rooms, nothing too expensive, and you can front that cost, have them do it to vet that before you open up a can of worms, potential problems on a customer's house, that would be ideal. Yeah. So test them out ahead of time, call the references.
I mean, one thing that I've always found to be helpful is to ask those really technical questions. And even if you don't know the answers, you can ask a painter what some good questions would be. But like, what kind of spray tip would you use to spray new drywall, right? And then like, there's a specific like rack X tip that you would use. And if they don't even know like how to answer that, I'd use the green tip. Well, okay, I don't know if that's a good answer.
Yeah. So it's funny. One thing I did as a non-painter is the 2 example jobs I would use to go through and ask a lot of those technical questions. I use the same 2 jobs on every single one. That way, like I could really see, okay, this guy knows way more about filling in, these cracks on trim and what putty he would use to fill those in and whatever, right? Like, and I purposely picked jobs that had several imperfections, several technicalities, and that definitely helped too.
Yeah. Sweet. So those are definitely good lessons. I mean, those are good lessons for anyone hiring anybody. Like, always call references. Like, you absolutely need to know experience of who you're bringing on your team before you actually bring them on. And if you can have a test project, that's always a good thing. Now you're thinking about bringing on some W-2 employees. Why the shift from subs?
I think one of the skill sets I've gotten decent at over the last several years running this marketing company is culture, creating culture, building people, building a really good team. And I don't think the issues I've run into are because like subcontractors don't work, like everybody wants to throw out there. I know there's great subcontractors out there. I just haven't necessarily found them yet. But I do believe I'm also partially at a disadvantage there. Because, right, like I see pretty quickly, it doesn't take them long to figure out that I don't know much about painting. Right. So then the dynamic shifts and they're trying to like get away with stuff, shortcut stuff, etc. Because they know I don't really know it. But then I do know enough. And that's where it kind of creates this clash in a lot of these relationships. And I had this moment, dude, where we're doing a dining room and a bathroom, walls and ceiling, very simple job. And one of our subs, who was actually, we had some pretty good experiences with him, but his mom got sick. She was diabetic and got sick in Pittsburgh. He had to drive over like last minute. And the customer was going on vacation the next week. So I didn't want to put it off. It's a 1-day job. So my brother, who's a real estate investor in the area and a self-taught contractor in a lot of different trades and is a pretty solid painter, it's like, dude, can you do me a favor? Like, this is a 1-day job. Like, I'll be your helper for the day. Like, I just want this one to get done. And dude, I had the least anxiety that morning of any morning going to a job site. Cause I was like, I know my brother's going to be there. I know he's gonna, if he's going to be running late, he's going to communicate. Yeah. I know too, that like, if he doesn't know how to do something or he's not confident in his ability on something, he's going to tell me and we'll find a solution together. He's not just going to like puff his chest out and try to be the smartest guy in the room. And it was so peaceful. I was like, this is great. Now I know a lot of that's because he's my brother. And I know you'll have problems like that with W-2s as well. But I was like, I wonder if W-2s is the middle ground. I imagine, I don't totally know yet. We haven't hired any W-2s yet. We're just in the interviewing process. But I imagine they're the middle ground. And again, if this company is just a big sandbox and it can all burn down and blow up and I don't care, let's go hire a W-2 crew. Let's see if it's better.
Yeah. Yeah. I would probably say that, I mean, I had a great experience of hiring in-house employees. They're more trustworthy, they're more loyal, and you can train them. They're open to feedback and coaching. They'll tell you what they don't know. And I think it's just so worth investing in your team and creating that culture. And even if you're virtual, like even if you yourself, the owner, is virtual, I think you can still create systems and processes to create culture, right? Like set up a bi-weekly breakfast where all the painters get together and you just pay for it, right? Have a monthly, night where everyone goes bowling or something and you just cover the bill.
Again, think about this too. Think about this fully scaled out with the whole org chart. Our project managers can do that breakfast and stuff once a week. 100%. Let's say even our GM was virtual. They fly in once a month to do the bowling night and meet with everybody and stuff. They're talking, the project manager is their direct report, right? But that GM is still there, gets to know those people. Like, yeah, exactly. It wouldn't.
I mean, it's definitely a really cool model, and there's a lot of growing pains, I'm sure, as you're learning this, because as far as I know, I don't know anyone else who's ever gone this route. I actually do have a client, Alex. His painting business is in Vancouver and he lives in Paris, France.
Okay.
So, but he had the benefit of growing a business for about 3 years, setting everything up, production manager, sales rep, solid crews. And then he's like, I'm out of here.
Here's the other thing too. It's so funny as there's all the haters online and everything. This would be 20 times easier too if you were already an established business, you had 50 Google reviews, you do 400,000 a year off word of mouth. Now transitioning that to virtual, oh my God, that would be a cakewalk compared to what I've done. Like when we took those first few estimates, they're like, I can't find you online. And I'm like, our website isn't done yet. They're like, you have no reviews. You're not even on Google. It's like nobody, it's brand new, So yeah.
Wicked. Now going full circle back to the marketing thing. Yeah. So you're running Facebook ads. What's working these days on Facebook?
Dude, so I talked about this a little bit at the Blast Off presentation. That was one of the cool parts about running the paint company is I was like, I'm testing all these crazy ideas. So I tested all sorts of stuff and a lot of it did not work and I wasted a lot of money on it, but like I needed to see, is this stuff going to work? And
you can't test with customers' money.
They don't like it when you do, or they tell you, actually, here's the very ironic part. I've had a lot of people tell me, let me be a guinea pig. Let me be a guinea pig. Do it. And then you do it and it doesn't work and they're pissed. It's like, bro, you told me.
Let me get this in writing.
Right. That's literally what I would start doing. But Yeah, one of the biggest things we found in Facebook and a lot of our discoveries was really just switching up the approach, which I think are things I think marketers have known for a long time, but really just taking it to another level. And here's what I mean. We've known forever that Facebook is a platform where your ads will perform better if they feel more like a native ad, right? They feel more like a native post.
Organic.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to see an ad. We develop what's called ad blindness, and we just scroll past it. We go, it's an ad, right? TV pops on with a commercial. We go to grab a snack, right? We would develop ad blindness. But taking that to a really another level in a way that doesn't even feel like marketing, it feels untraditional, right? So what we started doing is in a lot of our copy and stuff is removing all the emojis, removing all the big like 15% off and like all caps, like how marketers normally think. And like literally the first line on like some of our most successful ads is like, hey guys, my name's Eric and I run a paint company in Cleveland. It's like, it's the most like, you're like, this should not work. And we've just made, I kind of coined it this like honest contractor feel.
Where like the contractor who knows nothing about Facebook goes and like starts typing in and like, that's what comes out.
Dude, that's literally what I've tried to emulate. And it's interesting when you combined that writing style and our word choice. Like for example, when I say like at the end, so just click on this ad, I change it to post. Like who's the contractor that doesn't even know what they're doing? They didn't even realize they were making an ad. I'm trying to do that. But then it's very interesting because we all know the contractors that have done that and those ads flop. So when you combine that with marketing principles where you still have to have a great hook, you still have to have a great offer, the copy has to be well written still and well spaced out. And like when you combine those things together is when you get this beautiful harmony of these ads that just blow up.
What are those? Oh, I'm blanking. What are those copywriting principles? Like, there's like those 4-letter acronyms for the.
There's a bunch of them, but yeah, like hook, story, offer, call to action.
Yeah, like the ADA principle: attention, interest, desire, action. Still following that, but in kind of like more layman's terms.
In disguising it.
Yeah.
And not disguising it in the sense that most people traditionally are, where like you're disguising it and like you're not putting any like big crazy text in the images, like it feels more like native, but like going really, really hard into that.
Would you do like a before and after picture in the image, or like just
all sorts of stuff, before and after picture. We run certain people just like family photos, and it's just crushed it because it just feels like a post somebody would make. Yeah. But some of them haven't, right? So some family photos have flopped. But yeah, it's taking those same principles and just really, really going, how can I disguise this? And if you didn't read sponsored, you may have not even known it was an ad.
Yeah.
And those ones are the ones just crushing it.
I love that. Organic, like emulate organic, but with not necessarily new age marketing techniques, but with just like basic principles.
Yeah.
Like go back to like Elon says, first principles thinking.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, like the principles that have always been here.
Yeah.
But disguising them in new ways. Yeah. Because then when you think about that too, nobody else is doing that.
Yeah.
Right. So now you stand out.
How about when it comes to targeting? Are you doing just a geography? Are you doing interests? I know a lot of people here that listen to this type of stuff, they're doing their own Facebook ads. So what type of targeting practices can people test out?
Dude, we got a lot of people doing their own Facebook ads, and this shout out to this audience, man. Like you are the cream of the crop of the painters. That's what I'm talking about. But the answer is both and, right? I think the most effective targeting you can do is getting really, really clear on a zip code list. It's just hot take for a second. Mike, I don't know your thoughts on this, but I think this is where a lot of people miss is they don't take the time. They don't go put in the 2-3 hours of work to go through and figure out how narrow can I get? What are all the zip codes I want to be in? And it's just easier to say 25-mile radius around city, but then you get all these zip codes you don't want to be in. And then you're upset about the bad leads in the areas that are low income, but you didn't take the time to go through and figure out what zip codes are high income. So again, before we started our paint company, weeks before, I went online and did the research of income of the different counties I was going to work in and go through and made a certain thing, above this income we do, above this we won't, and made a whole list on a Google document. So day one, just plug that into our ads. I think that'll be one of the most effective to get you there. But from there, running open targeting or interests, several different home improvement, home services based interests. We test both.
I really like the concept of being really targeted on your location and just running open demographic target open psychographic targeting, because Facebook will figure out who's clicking. Facebook wants you to spend more money, so they want you to get results.
We regularly have open outperform other interests all the time. Yeah. It depends a little bit on the account, but we have that happen all the time.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's really cool. And like lead ads or landing page ads?
Lead ads. Not that landing page ads are bad, but I also talked about this with Blast Off. Facebook hasn't really come out and said it, but previously, if you made a custom field that said name or email or phone number, they would flag it. They wouldn't let your ad go live because that was like their personal info field that Facebook already made for you. I kid you not. I don't know. Facebook updated a lot of stuff. They didn't publicly come out and say this, but I did several forms on our paint company, and now we've done it for dozens and dozens of clients. You guys, if you're listening to this and doing your own Facebook ads, you know how finicky Facebook can be, and they'll reject your ad for anything. I have not had a single ad across dozens and dozens of accounts and all across the US get rejected because of doing this in a lead form. So something changed with Facebook, and you can now go in and make custom fields of name, phone number, email, and that we've seen get us a higher quality because you're no longer forced to use their custom field data, which like I know my phone number in my Facebook profile isn't my phone number now. It's a phone number from 5 years ago or something, right? So now they're forced to manually type in a phone number. We get a lot less spam and a lot higher quality. So,
wow, that's actually a really, really smart tip, because the biggest issue that people have with Facebook is that the leads are junk, and the leads are junk because people rely on autofill. So if Facebook doesn't realize that they're asking for first name, last name, email, phone, and they have to manually put it out, well, they're gonna put in their actual information, or they should 82% of the time put in their actual information.
Right. Well, and here's the interesting part too. And I'm sure you resonate with a lot of this, Mike, but like we still have some clients that are on autofill that do just fine. And guess what? We have people that complained about lead quality that we moved over to what I call no autofill, right? And they have to manually type in, and they're still not doing well, right? Because there is a whole process in calling them to do the appointment setting. Like if you just call them once a day after, or even you call them 3 times, and even you try to call them right away, like you're still missing out. And somebody like me will beat you because we will call them 3 times in the first day, and we will call them for 10 days straight. And we're going to book more appointments than you, and our marketing dollars are going to go further. Yeah. And I think that's a spot a lot of people neglect, and then they throw it up and blame the marketer. They blame the lead source, they blame Home Advisor. It's like, no, you sucked at lead conversion.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. That's such a underrated skill, is the appointment setter.
Dude, and here's my hot take on it too. Like, I'm sorry, I could go and rant on this forever. Like, it's not that hard of a position to outsource. It is an entry-level position. When I was hired to do this at a giant remodeling company, this was several years ago, minimum wage and stuff has gone up, but I was literally paid like minimum wage plus a bonus. Minimum wage in Ohio at the time was like $8. I made like $10 an hour as a college kid.
Yeah.
Like it's a very entry-level position. Like you can hire somebody overseas with good English to do this for $500 to $1,000 a month. And that's paid very well for them. And they will be full-time for that. Like it took me a few hours to train my person on this and gave them some resources. Like this, it's not that hard of a position to outsource. And it's something that takes up a lot of owner operators' time. And they just sit there in the hamster wheel thinking about outsourcing this position rather than taking any action doing it. It's like, it's an easy role to get off your plate that will have huge dividends if you're spending money on marketing.
Yeah. You're giving me ideas to create an SOP on how to do that, on helping my clients get outsource their setting activities.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
So, so you have your painting company, you have your marketing company, right? How are the two working together?
Quite frankly, they really don't on the day-to-day other than, I mean, the feedback from the paint side comes to marketing, right? And then we get to give that to our clients and stuff. Like that was a big thing. Now that we got some of this data, it was like, look, it's so funny. I broke it down. It's like I broke down because now we have tracking sheets of tracking like how many dials we made, how many texts we sent, how many appointments we booked, how many connected phone calls we made, etc. And remember, at our company level, we have no word of mouth. So we're spending like $4 or $5 grand a month on ads to book all these appointments for a full-time sales guy. So I broke down the numbers. I was like, she made this many phone calls, booked this many appointments. If every single call she made picked up the phone, every single one, and she spent on average 5 minutes on every single phone call, this would be 1.9 hours of work a day to book an entire sales rep's calendar. Like if now you're an owner operator and you're only taking like 2 estimates a day, like I broke it all the way down to like, if you were spending on ads, I need you to average 6 phone calls a day. Can you make 6 phone calls a day? So like that data coming over from the paint side, those epiphanies, that's how they work the most, is just bringing that stuff over and making it simpler and easier for our clients.
Data is crazy powerful.
Yeah. Or the other way it crosses over is like, I have a full-time tech guy and a full-time graphic designer and video editor on the marketing side. So when I need a spreadsheet for our estimating, I have it in a day.
Love it.
It's an advantage for sure.
Yeah, there's a little advantage that most painters don't get.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how they work together. But other than that, like they're pretty independent. They have separate morning meetings, like they're separate teams, all of that.
So you're learning a lot of lessons in your painting company that you're bringing over to your marketing company and vice versa. What do you do in your marketing company and how are you helping painters today?
So pretty much everything is Facebook and Instagram, Facebook and Instagram ads, and then a little bit of that lead conversion and in sales help as well, which we realized we just needed to do because I was sick of having people tell us leads weren't good and canceling when I'm like, I can sell them, So we had to throw a little bit of that in there, but that's the too long didn't read version of it.
Okay. And I mean, who is your ideal target and how like what kind of results are you typically seeing for your clients?
Yeah. I'd say, I mean, honestly, like our most ideal target is the painter that isn't really much of a painter and is a business person and a salesperson, and they understand that because they'll come in and just crush it month 1, right? Because they get that. But I'd say the guys that we typically work with that typically see a ton of success are the people that have some foundation under them, right? They're doing 30, 40,000 a month or so. They're not very good at the lead conversion side. Maybe they've done some marketing before and not seen the results they wanted from it, and they've only been word of mouth and stuff. And they're super open and coachable, right? They don't have an ego. They'll come in and they'll learn, even if the person's younger than them, even if they do this weird virtual business, whatever, they'll come in and just learn and be a sponge. We're really good at taking those guys from 30 to 40,000 to 80 to 100. I'd say we just have person after person after person after person where we've seen that trajectory with them. So yeah.
Awesome. And if someone wants to chat with you to see if you can help them, to see if they'd be a good fit, what should they do?
Honestly, the best way, sorry, this is not like the best marketer answer, but just search Eric Fozz on any social media and find me there and just hit my line. You can also go to pathfindermktg.com and you search Pathfinder Marketing and that stuff. But if you just hit Eric Fozz, it's my socials, and me or somebody from our team will.
Okay, I'm going to get the Pathfinder. I'm putting it on the screen, pathfindermktg.com.
Yep.
There we go. PathfinderMTKG.com.
No, wait. MKTG. It's like marketing, but abbreviated. Come on, Mike.
You got to use real words, man. There we go. Gotcha. MKTG.
There we go.
Well, man, I am impressed, and I love what you're doing. Basically smashing everyone's self-limiting beliefs by showing that it's not super difficult to run a painting company. It can be done virtually. I mean, I'm sure it's humbling running into some of the problems that you are having like with subs and stuff, problems that everybody has.
Yeah.
But what a learning experience, man. What a learning experience for the whole industry.
Yeah, very much so. It's been super fun getting to see the other side, getting to have some of those frustrations. And like, I understand, I make the joke to my team sometimes, like, I understand why a lot of painters are grumpy, because I'm dealing with some of the same problems and stuff. So it's been very humbling, very fun and challenging a lot of ways.
Well, wicked, man. I wish you nothing but the best in Cleveland, running your business and scaling it and continuing to prove this model. I think once you prove this model, I think you're going to get some followers, doing the same thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I'm all about it. So my goal is to, I kind of redefined this recently. Like, my goal is to make the average better, right? If we can make my marketing company will not make, like, we'll make some paint millionaires and stuff. We already have, but if we can make the average painter better, I feel like I'm doing my job, even if that's just a few small things that they get out of it, and they learn some stuff and they get better, that'll force everybody else to get better too.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the same thing. There's so many bad actors out there in the painting industry, providing poor customer experiences, bringing it down. But that just means the industry is ripe for disruption. And I think what you're doing, what I'm doing, what Nick Slavic's doing, I think it's about time the tables are going to turn.
I couldn't agree more.
Sweet. Well, thanks for coming on, man. And yeah, I'm excited for update in a few months.
Absolutely.
All right. See you, Eric.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.